feature after it came out, and like, I was kind of like, it's a short film. Like, it was never meant to be a feature, and it was only after sort of spending a lot of time and energy trying to make other films that, like, you know, are frustrating to try to get made. And you know, a bunch of people had asked, like, you know, maybe 10 years later, like, what about something? And you know, it kind of just, I was like, what would happen if those bugs were still in existence, and you know, someone like Rich had figured out how to monetize them. So yeah, it kind of was a lot, you know, 15 years later. It was never the plan, no.
And I read that the crew transition was much fairer. Like, you were working with a much smaller crew, it was more independent.
Yeah, I mean, Bug Crush cost probably twice as much as Swallowed, maybe 3 times as much. I mean, like on Bug Crush, we had like an art department and a wardrobe department and a, you know, like proper, like, I was coming off of doing like big fashion shoots, and so like we had like, you know, stuff. And this was 8 people in the woods, like, you know, one person doing, you know, 4 or 5 people's jobs.
This came out in 2022, so was this something that you were making, was this like a COVID production in terms of like scaled back everywhere, like, oh, we got one location, I assume this is property you own in Maine, and because I see on your Instagram that you go up and back to Maine all the time. So was it sort of like working under those conditions to do something kind of like smaller scale, or was there like, oh, I wish I could do this if we weren't in the middle of this pandemic?
Yeah, it was shot during the pandemic, and it was sort of like from the beginning, it was designed to be something that we could make with, you know, 5, 6, 7 people. And I mean, I wrote it knowing that cabin is the cabin that, it's like my dad's fishing cabin, and like that Jeep is my Jeep, and like I knew, you know, I had Jenna Malone's phone number, and because we had done a film together, and so like a lot of it was just, you know, just sort of knowing that I could maybe, hopefully pull it off. So it was never meant to be bigger than what it was.
When did you decide to shoot in 4:3?
That was during prep, and you know, once I started talking to Alex, the DP, you know, you'd start talking about the formats of the cameras, and like, I knew that I wanted so much of it to unfold in close-ups, especially like in the cabin, like that, you know, the whole sort of extraction, you know, fisting type situation. Like, I knew that I wanted to be on their faces, and I wanted like their faces to fill the screen, you know, as opposed to like widescreen where it'd be like a face and then so much negative space. And also, like, I knew that cabin, you know, it's not that nice, it's not that pretty. Like, I was like, it's not like a, you know, a widescreen cabin. Like, I sort of...
You couldn't like physically put the camera far enough back to do those kind of like wides.
Well, and even if you did, it's like an ugly fishing cabin. I mean, you know, it's not, you know, it's just, it wasn't like we were shooting in like, you know, a beautiful desert or like, you know, somewhere that deserved widescreen. Yeah. And
you'd met Jose Colon, who does a great performance as Dom, in a previous photo shoot for All the Dead Boys, which is your wonderful photo series. What was it like figuring out how to shoot? You had shot him in the context of like photography, fashion photography. What was it like trying to figure out how to shoot him for film?
I mean, you know, the thing is, like, I had shot him for All the Dead Boys, and then, like, and I hadn't really started the script yet. And I went to Maine, and I was like, when I shoot for that series, like, a lot of times, like, the guys sort of become characters. And, like, he became, in my head, this character, Dom. And so I started the script actually with him in mind, and sort of wrote around him in a way. Like, he sort of, you know, I mean, we spent like one afternoon together, and then, you know, like, I didn't know him, but like this sort of version of him, you know, materialized and fleshed out. And I mean, you know, you can see what it looked like. I knew that it wasn't gonna be a problem to, you know, like, it's hard to make any of those people, not, really jump off the screen in a close-up. So like I knew that, there wasn't like a, going to be an issue. And also I wrote like very much like with him, and because I was writing with him in mind, I feel like it was, it wasn't like I was asking him to do something so completely out of the sort of the sweet spot of what I knew of him.
Was Dom always going to be the character that was bitten?
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about some of the other performers in the movie because they are incredible. No. It's Jenna Malone. I didn't even like. When I first watched it, I was like, "Oh, she's great." But watching it on the big screen, I'm like, "No, she is like she is queen. She is icon. Yeah, she's so much fun to like." What was it like collaborating with her? I mean, and Cooper Cox. Like everyone is so great in it.
Yeah.
How did they come? You said you had her phone number, but.
Yeah,
how did you put the cast together?
We had done the Ruins
Right.
together, and
Right.
so we just kept in touch and always talked about doing another movie. Like Jose, I knew I wanted to be Dom. I wrote the part with Mark Patton in mind, like because I'd seen Scream Queen,
Right.
and I was kind of like, someone needs to put him in a film as like a crazy, unhinged, like
Killer
villain.
Queen.
Yeah.
And for people who don't know that this is a documentary called Scream Queen, which is about Mark Patton, whose career was, basically reached its pinnacle as being the gay, as Kyle explained in the intro, but I'll reiterate it, he was the closeted gay star of the Freddy Krueger sequel, and then subsequently didn't work again for,
went
decades
to
and
hide in
decades.
Mexico, and I found him on Instagram. And I mean, after seeing the doc, and I just DM'd him, and I was like, I wrote a movie, and you're in it. Like, it was good. And Cooper was actually the only one that he auditioned. Like, he put himself on tape for it. And it was, clear from the very first time I saw that tape. Like, I had met Cooper before, like once, but we didn't really know each other. And, I mean, it's just the four of them, and so I was kind of in love with all of them.
What kinds of conversations? Well, first, tell me about Jenna Malone's fingernails, her nail polish. Incredible.
Yeah.
And especially the contrast against the gun she's holding. What kinds of conversations were you having about what kind of gun Mark Patton's character would have?
Oh, I wish we were so, that was the gun that was available. Like, it was not, I mean, that's a conversation that you would have had on like a big budget movie, but this was like, there was one gun that we could find. Like, the guy that was my production designer and art director, like, he had never done a film before. And he's like, well, we can just use a real gun, right? If we take the bullets out. I was like, no, we can't. So that was the one gun that the prop house, had available. And the nails were just like, we came up with it together. We went to, get a manicure at the mall, like in a little prep, and she's like, "What do you think of like long green?" I was like, "I love it. Yes."
I want to talk before I open up to the audience, but I want to talk about like you are playing in this film with some. I mean, horror. We know horror is about the anxieties, right? It deals with like these larger themes and things that are in culture and. You are making specifically a gay narrative, essentially, and I think there's, Kyle mentioned chemsex as one sort of, and drugs as one sort of, maybe there's a metaphor about the takeover of, gay people from, and the plague of sort of addiction, that can happen and that has happened. And then there's also this element of the war between the, generations, the old queens and the young hot body, and so, and you play it in very sort of stark arrangements. So I'm curious, like, which came first? Was it sort of like, oh, I want to do something on this theme, or did it just kind of come organically out of like the story narrative?
I feel like theme, like I never really end up thinking about theme until, I'm in the editing room, really, or, so it was really just about like, I love movies and stories where like things just keep getting worse and worse and worse until they get a little bit worse. And so I liked that sort of as a structure, and and I liked the idea also that like I hadn't really seen a villain like Mark Patton, like a really campy queer villain, and I liked the idea that like we can all sort of feel like we're at a distance from it, but then like there's this moment when Cooper's getting undressed, and it's like, oh, I'm actually waiting for him to take off his underwear too, like, and like, so I have where am I in this,
The viewer is getting that pleasure, like in any horror movie where it's like the girl takes a shower and she
like, so you can sort of like distance yourself from his like craziness, but then also there's this moment of like, oh, that's a little bit me too,
and you have sympathy for him.
Hopefully,
like even as a villain, you feel like.
When he got the script, he was, it took him, he said that it took him, 45 pages before because he thought he was being sent it for Benjamin. And, and he's like, well, I'm too old for this part. And then only when Rich came in did he realize, like, oh, like that's the part. And, he was a little bit, upset, I think, by that, but then he embraced it.
That's a wild story.
I mean, I don't know how true it. I mean, that's what the story that he told me.
Said, yeah.
Like I think there's probably some truth in it. Because that's who he was. He was the golden boy. At the time when he was in Hollywood and he was on Broadway and he was in Come Back to the Five and Dime Jimmy Dean.
Right. The narrative in the film is transposed from his actual real life narrative. Yeah. It's so much fun. Kyle, do you have anything?
When did you know that Benjamin was going off to be a gay porn star? And do you think he has survived / thrived the transition to sort of direct-to-consumer subscription based on?
He brought the Bucks to LA.
Okay.
Don't you think that they would come in handy?
Absolutely.
So that was always, this was a movie that I wrote very much like, I got, I shot with Jose, I went back to Maine, I, wasn't doing anything, I sat down and wrote, and like, kind of wrote it in a fever dream of like a couple of weeks. That song, the Narcisco song, like I put that on and literally it on repeat for weeks and weeks and weeks the entire time that I wrote the script. And so everything kind of came out, there wasn't a lot of time to think and plan. It sort of came out like that, or like it was.
When did you find that song?
It was like a random like Spotify like suggested song. I don't even know. I had never heard of her before. Yeah.
I'd love to open it up to the audience if people have questions or comments. Yes.
Did you have to pitch the movie at any point to get funding? And if so, what on earth did you say to them? And how did they react?
And I pitched the movie everywhere, to everyone, always. Like, looking for any amount of money that anyone would give me. And because originally I wanted to do the movie for quite a bit more than what we ended up spending on it. Everyone was like, oh, it's well written, I like the characters, but bring it back when it's done. Like, I couldn't raise $1 for it, like nothing. And so it went from being like, I think it was like gonna be like $300,000 we were gonna try to make it for, and instead we shot it for 50. And that's only because like.
Even 300,000 is
300
nothing.
is still nothing.
It's still nothing.
But 50 is even less than nothing.
Right.
Like, so I tried, but unsuccessfully. I mean, people liked it after it was done, but nobody wanted anything to do with it in the script stage.
One of the things I do love is how good it looks, and with your background in fashion photography, when do you know, especially given this like backwoods, grimy sort of horror movie, when do you know it has the right amount of polish and right amount of grit?
I think it's just instinctive. It was always, I love making guys sweaty and putting dirt under their nails and like all that stuff. So, hey, Jose. Jose is here. It's like a, so it's like a kind of a natural thing, I never end up wanting to make people look too glamorous, especially these characters.
Absolutely. Any back in the red?
So having met Mark, that whole scene in the bath, like that is Mark, like those stories that he tells and everything. I just felt him so strongly with that. So was that you writing it for him? Was that some stuff that he brought to it, or was it like a little?
Believe it or not, I wrote most of that. Like I did a line of coke with Grace Jones in a bathroom once. That's where that came from. I mean, the thing that he really did add, that he was like, I would never take advantage of you. People took advantage of me. Like that was something that he added. But the rest was, I mean, he did a little improv, but that was mostly written.
Yeah.
To be honest, I wrote it with him in mind. I pictured those words coming out of his mouth after seeing the doc, so I kind of knew they might work, or hoped they would.
So I got kind of like a question and a comment. I'm just thinking about interpolation of like existing themes in horror or existing kind of emotional experiences you had. And I just want to shout out Scott Trelevin, who wrote Bug Crush.
Yes.
Story, Bug Crush, which y'all should read.
It's incredible.
It's a fucking incredible story, and it's about kind of like the gay bi friend relationship, which as like an interpolation thing, oh god, that shit's so precious, right? Like I think a lot of us in this room can understand that very tender kind of narrative aspect, which is added to this story in such a beautiful way. And I was wondering if you could comment a little bit about your process of sort of, oh man, like how do you like capture that genie in a bottle, like it's like lightning in a bottle, it's so subtle. There's not a lot of movies like that.
Well, first I'll say like everyone should check out, there's an anthology called Queer Fear, and then there's Queer Fear 2. I think Bug Crush is in Queer Fear 2, right?
Right.
Yeah, and it's an incredible short story that turned into the first short. But I think that without casting, I think that's how you capture that. It's like those faces, like Jose and Cooper, and sort of building this pair that are both so kind of emotionally available and like willing to, put themselves in crazy situations and I think that, Cooper, I think most of us understand what it's like to fall in love with someone who doesn't love you back, or your best friend, or whether it's from high school or so I think that it's like something you can tap into kind of for a lot of people. But yeah, I mean, it could have been a really different movie with different casting. I was very, very lucky to have the talented actors that I worked with.
Other questions or? Yeah.
So Mark Patton's character, he swoops in and does all these ghastly, horrible things. And then he has a moment when he's alone in the cabin and he is upset and sad and scared. It's the whole like, oh God, I'm gonna get into trouble. It's kind of remorseful, but not really. And it reminded me of the moment in Texas Chainsaw Massacre when Leatherface is alone and he's like, oh God, what do I do? What do I do? And he's panicking. Was that on purpose, or is that just me?
No, but I love that. I mean, I love that film, so like it makes perfect sense that yeah. I mean, because it is like a, that scene is so unhinged. I mean, he's also like really high on drugs at that point, so like he's in a completely kind of unpredictable, crazy place. And I mean, we shot a bunch and just let him roam around that room, and I felt like it was nice to have that like little bit of kind of seeing what he might do when he was on his own, but it wasn't directly from Texas. I mean, maybe I've seen that movie so many times, so maybe it was subconscious.
Either way, it's wonderful.
I want to ask you about One question is sort of, have you actually had the chance to watch this movie in a room full of gays like tonight with, where they're
It's
knowing?
so much more fun watching it with gays. We did a lot of horror film festivals,
right?
But we also did queer festivals. So like I saw it at New Fest, you know, where it played, but it's definitely more fun with the gays. I mean, I love the horror peeps too, but like the gays know where to laugh.
Yeah.
Like the horror audiences felt like there was no laughter ever, and I was like, you know, whereas you guys were laughing at all the right spots. So.
So when you're making things, or you know, you're in your career, and you've made gay films and you've made straight films, and like, I'm curious, like, you know, obviously the changing landscape of the world like changes, and you think like, oh, maybe I shouldn't make this, or I should make this. I'm not saying you do this, but I'm just saying like this is what filmmakers sort of have to deal with, and you know, like you said, to get money, this you know, fisting and body horror and
not always easy.
Not always easy. How do you decide what to do, and like to what level are you sort of committed to, you know, sort of saying like I want to keep making gay horror movies like this, or are you just sort of like, you know, how do you decide what to do and when to to dig into that side of yourself?
You have to keep always working on multiple projects at all times. And so at any one time there might be, you know, a big movie, a medium movie, and then like I had never done a small movie like this. This is the smallest film that I've done. Like my first film was The Ruins, right, which was like a studio movie, and it was kind of
huge,
you know, it was.
It was a summer. It was like a summer movie, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly. It was, and I never expected that would be the case. Like I expected I would make a movie like Swallowed, and then maybe get a little bigger, and then a little bit more, you know. And it happened in the exact opposite. But I think that now that I know how to make, I mean, I haven't made another one yet, but like now that I know how to make a movie for 50 grand, you know, and like where we could have spent a little more money, where we, you know, could have saved a little money, like I feel like I will keep making films like this, you know, and you know, other films too, hopefully, right, you know, but if I only make, you know, tiny little weird queer horror movies, like I'll have fun, you know, and hopefully there will be people to find them and watch them, you know. So
like here,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And for maybe a final question, what was the most satisfying creative challenge to overcome on this?
I don't know, like, I mean, I knew that the performances, like, it normally would be like, okay, like I want to make sure that we get the performances, but I was kind of felt like those, I felt good about that going in. I think that just pulling off the bugs, you know, because like I had, Dan Martin is a special effects artist who I had met like at a film festival, and I asked him if he would do me a huge favor and make these bugs. And, you know, they're like animatronic, old school, like wires, and
so it's not CGI.
No. I mean,
I wasn't sure because you only sort of see it briefly, but it's very good.
The teeth that move on them, that you know, when you see like those teeth are digital, but the rest are like, you know, wires, right, and you know, and so like, and you know, Dan didn't come on. He's in London. He didn't come to, you know, our crew was like 8 people. You know, so the day before we were starting to shoot, we got a FedEx box with the bugs, you know, and the puppeteer, you know, and like all the wires. And so like, and we did a Zoom with him to try to figure out like how to do it and how to puppeteer them. And, you know, so every time there's bugs moving, there's like 4 people, which is half the crew, laying underneath, like trying to figure out how to do these like wire things to make them move. So like, I feel kind of proud that we figured that out. And I still have them. You know, like it's, you know, so.
They're gonna make them come back.
Yeah. I mean, they could always.
Yeah, but I mean, you have the Bug Crush cinematic universe now.
Yeah.
You have a short, you have a feature. Yeah. There could be other characters in other parts of the world.
I do think that Cooper, that Benji Dom, when he gets to LA, like he's a smart guy.
He takes the bugs.
He takes the bugs with him. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I think they come in handy.
Yeah. He starts selling them to celebrities and. Yeah. Carter Smith, thank you so much. Kyle Turner, thank you so much. This is so much fun. Thank you all for coming. Please join us at Boiler Room.